The biting wind of the Alaskan frontier was a living thing, a predator that howled and clawed at everything it touched. For Elias Vance, it was a torment he had endured for days, the last shreds of his hope worn thin by the relentless cold. He was a farmer, not a trapper, and the brutal winter had caught him far from his homestead, his horse having gone lame 2 days prior. Now he was on foot, his supplies dwindling and his body numb. He stumbled, a gasp of pain escaping his lips as his ankle gave way on the uneven, snow-covered ground. He had heard tales of the isolated homesteads scattered across the territory, but none had prepared him for the solitude. As the last light of a pale sun bled from the sky, a faint flicker of warmth caught his eye, a wisp of smoke, a promise of life in this frozen wasteland. With a renewed, desperate surge of energy, he pushed forward, each step a deliberate, agonizing effort. The cabin appeared as if out of a dream, a small, sturdy structure of hewn logs, a plume of smoke rising from its stone chimney. Elias felt a wave of relief so profound it threatened to buckle his knees. He limped to the heavy wooden door and raised a fist, the sound of his knock a hollow thud against the wood. The door creaked open, and a woman stood silhouetted against the warm glow of a roaring fire. Her face was etched with the hardship of a life lived in isolation, her eyes dark and weary. She held a rifle loosely in her hand, the barrel glinting in the firelight. "What do you want?" she asked, her voice low and raspy, like gravel grinding against stone. "I don't have much to spare." Elias struggled to speak, the words catching in his frozen throat. "Please," he managed to croak, "I'm lost. My horse. I've been walking for days. I just need a place to rest, to get warm." She scrutinized him, her gaze sweeping over his tattered clothes and frostbitten hands. Her eyes softened almost imperceptibly as they settled on the deep, bone-weary exhaustion in his face. She stepped aside, motioning with the rifle. "Come in!" But no tricks. Elias stumbled over the threshold, the blast of heat from the hearth hitting him like a physical blow. He swayed, his vision blurring, and before he could right himself, he felt a strong arm steady him. "Sit!" she commanded, guiding him to a stool by the fire. He sank onto it, the warmth soaking into his bones, and felt a wave of dizziness so overwhelming that the world tilted. He woke to the smell of stew and the gentle crackle of the fire. The woman was kneeling beside him, a bowl in her hand. "Drink," she said simply. The broth was a miraculous concoction, filling him with a warmth that spread from his stomach to his fingertips. He looked at her then, properly for the first time. Her hair, the color of a raven's wing, was pulled back in a severe bun, and her face, though lined, held a striking kind of beauty, a testament to her resilience. "My name is Elias Vance," he said, his voice stronger now. She nodded. "I know. I've heard the stories of the farmer who pushed his luck too far north." She paused, her eyes meeting his. "They call me Katya. Most people stay away." "Why?" he asked, a knot of unease forming in his stomach. "Because I'm a widow," she said, her voice flat, "and men see that as an invitation to take what they want. But I'm not that kind of woman." She gestured to the rifle leaning against the wall. "And this cabin is all I have left." Elias was silent, a newfound respect for her washing over him. He had been so focused on his own survival that he hadn't considered the life of the person who had saved him. She was more than just a savior. She was a survivor. The night wore on, the wind howling outside. Elias's eyelids felt heavy, but he hesitated to ask for a place to sleep. He was a stranger, and she had already given him so much. Katya seemed to sense his discomfort. "There's only one bed," she said, her voice quiet. She looked at him, her gaze direct and unwavering. "The cold will kill you outside. Lie with me or die outside." The words hung in the air, a stark, brutal choice. There was no seduction in her voice, only a cold, hard pragmatism. Elias, a man of simple morals, felt a flush of embarrassment, but the memory of the frozen, unforgiving wilderness was still fresh in his mind. He was a man with a good reputation, a wife, and a life to get back to, but he was also a man who wanted to live. He met her gaze, his own emotions a whirlwind of gratitude, fear, and a strange, burgeoning sense of connection. He didn't know what to say. His silence was his answer. Thanks for watching the first part. Subscribe to the channel to not miss the next chapter of this incredible story. Elias lay on the far side of the bed, a chasm of silence and unspoken tension between them. The fire had dwindled to embers, and the only light came from the faint glow of the moon filtering through a small window. Katya was a still, quiet presence beside him, her breathing a soft, rhythmic sound in the dark. Elias couldn't sleep. His mind raced, replaying her words, the harsh reality of his situation, and the profound, humbling kindness of this woman. He thought of his farm, of the fields he had worked so hard to clear, of the simple life he had built with his wife, Sarah. The memory of her face, warm and loving, was a comfort and a torment. He was a good man, a man of faith and honor. He had never imagined he would find himself in a situation like this, sharing a bed with a stranger, a woman who had saved his life. He turned his head slightly, and in the dim light he could see her face, a pale oval against the dark pillow. She was not a temptress, not a threat. She was a woman hardened by the wilderness, a woman who had made a difficult choice to save another person's life. He felt a deep sense of respect for her, a recognition of her strength and her solitude. The silence was finally broken by Katya's voice, a low whisper in the darkness. "My husband," she began, "was a trapper. He was a good man, but the winters here, they don't care about good men. One day he just didn't come back." Her voice was devoid of emotion, a simple statement of fact. "That was 2 years ago. I haven't seen another soul since." Elias was silent, the weight of her words settling in the quiet room. He understood then. Her choice wasn't just a matter of survival. It was a desperate, human need for connection, a temporary reprieve from a solitude that would break even the strongest of souls. "My wife," Elias said, the words a quiet confession. "Her name is Sarah. She's a kind woman. I worry she's scared." "She is," Katya said, her voice still quiet. "The storms here don't scare you. It's the silence in between them that does." They fell back into a comfortable silence, the shared stories bridging the distance between them. Elias finally drifted off to sleep, his dreams filled not with the cold, but with the warmth of the fire and the shared humanity of a stranger. He woke with the sun streaming through the window, the cabin filled with a soft golden light. Katya was already up, a fresh pot of coffee brewing over the fire. The air was filled with the rich aroma, and Elias sat up, a feeling of hope he hadn't felt in days, swelling in his chest. "The storm has passed," she said, pouring him a steaming mug. "You'll be able to get back today. The snow is not so deep." Elias took the mug, his hands wrapping around the warm ceramic. "Thank you," he said, the words feeling inadequate. "You saved my life. Just remember," she said, her eyes meeting his, "what it costs to be alone out here. There's a price for everything." He had a long and perilous journey ahead of him, but he was no longer a lone traveler. He was a man who had faced the true, unforgiving nature of the Alaskan wilderness and found a fragile, unexpected sanctuary in the heart of a solitary woman. He knew he would never forget her or the choice she had given him. He had faced his own death and, in a strange twist of fate, had found a deeper understanding of life and what truly mattered. Don't forget to like and comment on the video. It helps a lot and ensures more stories like this will be created. The journey back was still a struggle, but Elias was no longer consumed by despair. The warmth of Katya's hearth, the taste of her stew, and the quiet comfort of her presence lingered in his memory, a source of strength against the harsh elements. He had a clear goal: to get back to his home, to his wife, and to a life he now appreciated more deeply than ever. He limped on, pushing through the deep drifts of snow, his mind filled with the image of Sarah's face. He arrived at his homestead 3 days later, exhausted and frostbitten, but alive. Sarah rushed out, her face a mixture of relief and fear, and threw her arms around him, burying her face in his chest. "I thought you were dead," she sobbed, her body shaking. "I thought the winter had taken you." Elias held her tight, his own emotions overwhelming. "I know," he whispered, a silent tear tracing a path down his weathered cheek. "But I made it." He spent the next few weeks recovering, the warmth of his own home, a stark contrast to the unforgiving cold he had faced. The story of his journey, of the widow who had saved him, spread through the small, scattered community. Some gossiped, some speculated, but Elias held a deep, profound silence on the matter. The details of that night were his and Katya's alone. One day, while tending to his fields, he saw a small, lone figure on the horizon. It was a woman, walking with a steady, determined gait. His heart quickened as he recognized her. It was Katya. She stopped at the edge of his property, a quiet, almost shy expression on her face. "I needed supplies," she said, her voice soft. "Thought I'd trade with you, if you had any to spare." Elias's silence had been a choice of respect, but her arrival felt like a test. He met her gaze, and in her eyes he saw the same loneliness, the same resilience he had seen in the cabin. He knew then that their story wasn't over, that their lives were now connected in a way that went beyond a single night of survival. He didn't speak of the past, of the choices they had both made. He simply nodded, a slow, genuine smile spreading across his face. "Come inside," he said, motioning to his home. "My wife, Sarah, would like to meet you." He led her to the house, where Sarah stood in the doorway, a look of cautious curiosity on her face. Elias introduced them, and the two women, so different and yet so alike in their shared experience of the frontier, exchanged a long, silent look. "Thank you," Sarah said, her voice filled with a sincere gratitude, "for bringing my husband back to me." Katya nodded, a faint, almost invisible smile on her lips. "He's a good man," she said, her eyes meeting Elias's for a brief, knowing moment. As the women began to talk, Elias stood on the porch, watching the vast, silent landscape. He had faced the cold, the fear, and the impossible choice, and in that moment, as he watched the two most important women in his life find a common ground, he knew that the true strength of the frontier wasn't in enduring the cold alone, but in finding warmth in the most unexpected of places. The true story of the Alaskan widow and the farmer was not one of conflict, but of shared humanity, of connection, and of the quiet, enduring power of hope. His silent gratitude was a testament to a truth deeper than any words could convey. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this journey into the heart of the Alaskan frontier. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories.